That's the biggest turnout seen for valuation, department evaluation in a long time, 14 of the 17.
Pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
You
And I'm one opposed to having big groups, but I'm on all the team books.
Yeah, John. We found a lot of questions.
We got man.
Well, you know, it takes about a year to break in.
Oh, Miranda was here earlier.
They come with.
But you don't think too often.
I don't think they come with. My understanding is there, I mean.
Actually, other than one virtual care tomorrow, I'm in a week that I know about. So see like
Okay, I haven't seen it all the way since. Every day. I need advice, counseling. Therapy. That exactly. That's from.
Jim, I was gonna ask you when you're done there, I got a question for you. I know.
This will be over. That's up to you. No, wait for Matt Jones and Miranda has something. You can say it, time, we can say pass or pass.
Anybody wish for a water?
No, I went that one.
Where's the Scott?
I mean, how
Where's
much
Scott?
water does the
Let's take a
village
shot.
sell outside the village into the town?
And inside the building while we're inside.
Can't give you like actual gallons.
No, not gallons, but I was curious, how far out do they
One
go?
of the huge ones is Cumberland Farms.
Oh, the new one?
Yeah, new one. And then you include a clubhouse around there.
Does McDonald's have it?
Huh?
McDonald's?
No.
Oh, they
They're all-
don't?
They're all on one.
But now the other part of the mall does, doesn't it? Like up there Subway now?
Just that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's what, 4 stores up there?
Yeah.
And
No, I'm sorry. McDonald's does that.
it does.
Yeah, it's the next one up there.
Time to meet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's some houses, on the west side.
And I know the Chevy dealership has it, so then Cumberland Farms and then a few more, you think?
Yeah, it's a few more houses.
Are they gonna expand the water and when they do their?
We're looking at create a water district that will go up 29 to the circle. In the middle falls to the bridge. Up,
All right, we have to,
40?
no, with the S&M plans.
all right, can we,
Oh,
To
in
the S&M.
Middle Fall.
Yeah.
can we move along on this? Okay. Matt has some updates and something else to bring up, so Matt.
First, I'm just gonna pass around, like I think you on both sides, supervisors, the park schedules, you can post them at your town halls or put them on your websites or Facebook, whatever you have.
Richness of colors.
Yeah.
Stands out.
We got one.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
Yeah, one.
One more right there.
There might be extras, I don't. Maybe 20. That's got the floor. Oh, I didn't know we were up yet. I guess I'm. Sorry. So parks, just a quick update, I was up at Hewlett's the other day. A couple small things over the winter, a little bit of vandalism, but nothing terrible. I think, this year, if we get time, we're gonna continue just updating the cabin. The roof project we finished last year, we put new, posts in and shored up the whole pavilion. That looked pretty good. It came out real good. That's basically what's going on up there. We're staffed well up there. Don't expect there to be too many problems. There was just an update, there was a article, I don't know, it came from the Lake George Waterkeeper, Pickle Bay Association about the brook on the right side of the park having some E. coli test, but it's like a backwater. It's a runoff from all the, really it's runoff from all the camps in Pickle Bay Association that comes down along the side of our property. Last year, we had that tested. We tested the beach water, right there out in front quite often. Just as an update, we are in the clear. We are in the good. Everything that we do up there, our septic, our pumps, everything is up to code. It goes up the hill. We aren't any part of the problem of the E. coli. So we are the neighbor though. So our beach is the location that always tends to get brought up. And when they say beach, it's really the brook that's next to it. But there was a newspaper article, and it might have been like in the Whitehall paper or something.
I can add a little bit to that.
Yep.
The LGA did do a study. They put out a paper. It has been withdrawn. So they've officially withdrawn that.
Okay, great. So I didn't know where it went because I saw it, I read it with my own eyes. And then when I went to print it and go get it, I couldn't find it again.
So what moved on?
Yeah.
Just snapped our fingers and then it went.
Disappeared.
It was presented and maybe the Whitehall Times caught a bit of it, but then it was discussed with the LGA and it's been withdrawn.
Great, thank you. So I think we're in good shape up there. Hewlett's, Melissa and I went down and met with the state about the cabin and possibilities down there.
At Lake Lauderdale.
At Lake Lauderdale. Oh, sorry, down at Lake Lauderdale. And they have committed to like $25,000 of funding to us, which isn't enough to rehab that cabin, the old cabin. We're back and forth right now. Obviously, our first priority is to be able to have a break room and an office for the lifeguards and the park manager that's up to date. And basically left it at, we get that done and then you can do whatever you want with the cabin in your money. You can rehab the cabin yourself or you can do whatever you want. Like if it's that important to them, which I'm not saying it isn't, but we weren't gonna fund that project for them.
Do we have a group within the county that is in the business of doing something like that, and might be interested in doing that?
in like donating their time.
So,
25,000.
there was probably, what, 8 or 9 state employees from different divisions down there. If the volunteer group wanted to do that, I would send them to work with them because they don't work with each other. One was there from
Bid
Office of
codes,
Historic
yeah,
Preservation,
codes,
code said, take it down. I don't even want anybody around it.
Structure.
You know, Office of Historic Preservation was like, oh, you just take a few logs and stick it in there and you're all good to go. You know, like, it's quite the show.
No, but I guess I was looking at it a different way. Is there someone that does that type of work within our county?
Oh.
That would do the work if we got them the 25,000? Would they be willing to
Well-
donate whatever the rest was to get it in shape? Because then they could put out their sign that, you know,
I think we'll let the state,
rehabilitated by such and such and whatever, use it as an advertisement, even there might be somebody that's
Well-
interested in that.
state would, I was gonna leave it to their own accord to do whatever, you know, they're out, it's their building. It's not ours, so we don't have. I don't know, if I put my foot in that.
It just becomes there, a lot of questions about procurement, right? If the money's coming
Yes.
from the state, who's gotta actually put the bids out? There was a lot of that discussion. So if we start crossing paths.
I think the best thing we can do is just leave it in the states.
Matt,
Cable
yeah,
payments.
I guess my question is,
They have their own guys that do that.
I see general admission is charged for Lauderdale, or the reason it's not charged for this?
Yes. That's in the original agreement with when the property was turned over to the county, that it was always.
The deed covenants,
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious, I never knew.
the family that donated the property, it was a deed covenant.
In the 70s.
States, could be, goes on. So that, right now, that's the update on the park, and we don't need to take any action or anything. We, just actually have one more interview with these guys on it right now. For another lifeguard for down there, so I think we should be full staff getting there. Go ahead, Dan.
I got a question about these two maps, not anything you've said so far. Is if we take the, Euless Park,
Mhm.
what, is that a right of way, those two straight, it looks like a T up at the right hand side? What is that?
That is the roads of the Pickerel Bay Association that are still. I would lean on, Roger knows the history of that, and I don't know if it's ever passed down, but there's something to do, maybe Bob knows. We still own those roads or something, even though we don't take, it's under the agreement, they take care of them, but
Yeah, there
it's
was,
something, it's
We had a
weird.
99-year lease on it.
yeah, I think there's a long-term lease on it, I think. That was way back. Yeah, that was a baby game warden.
But what, who has the long-term lease?
About the 99 years.
Like the
We lease it.
Pickerel Bay has it from us.
Yeah,
We
we
lease it
own
to
it,
them.
they've got a lease
So
on
we
it.
could give it up, right? Since it's our lease? Well, I mean, why do we want to own that?
Because it was given to us and we can't get rid of
Oh, there.
Huh?
it. Because it was given to us and we can't get rid of it.
Oh, that was part of it?
That might be part of
That
it,
map is what was given to us, I believe.
yeah. And we'd have to go back through all the legal part of it, but it might be something that we can't get rid of, so we did the 100-year lease instead.
Yeah.
Well, you know, sometimes it'd be good to look into that, 'cause
Yeah.
the cost of owning it sometimes isn't worth the cost. And,
I think it's all maintained by the
Right.
Pickerel Bay.
It is.
Association.
Pickerel Bay maintains
And
it.
they do the plowing,
Yeah.
if they need plowing.
They
and
lease it so they can.
The only thing you might have to worry about would be a liability, something, just because if your name is attached to it,
Right.
you know, if somebody was to,
Whatever it is.
they might name
it's
us.
Not on our chip inventory, it's not on our highway.
No.
No,
Not.
You-
Not.
he's a Pickle Bay man,
yeah,
you can tell.
well, he knows this, well, that's his town, right?
And now tell me, then down on Lake Lauderdale, what does that look like, a right of way for the road company? How come we
I don't know why,
don't?
though.
Why is it-
I think they highlighted the road because the road's all part of it.
Yeah, so I mean, really, that's not a boundary
In the
line.
tax map, that's not there. In the tax map for Hewlett's, what you're looking at is really there. In Lake Lauderdale, that road in is not cut out like that. I think they just have that as guide to get into the park, you know.
And the
something-
squiggly line on the left up to Hewlett is just the brook, right? You're following the center of the brook.
Yep.
So if the brook moves, we move with it.
Yep,
But remember Lauderdale, we don't own, so the state, that's what, how the state maps it,
yep,
because we don't own it.
yep. So,
Yeah, we don't have any control over anything.
all right,
I gotta remember to take that off.
so the updates, I'll give quick for going update. Everything's on target, on schedule. I'll knock on wood. I think it's accelerated just a little bit, but we're on target over there. Lot of stuff's going on. Middle Falls, we're on target to be able to move, I would say, by the end of June. A little bit of a delay was the fire suppression tank. The one that was earmarked for our job that was supposed to come was damaged or something. And the lead time went out to November, so we scrambled and found one in Texas that could get here, you know, for same cost, same thing, you know, it's June, so June was better than November, so at least we're on target for there. The mezzanine area is gonna get poured Friday, and then the floor is all gonna get poured next week. And then the following Monday, blacktop starts. I think it's May 5th is blacktop starts at Middle Falls. And then obviously, like 28 days before the epoxy floor can go on the concrete after it's cured, and we'll have people in lifts in there putting the lights in and everything else, but it's looking nice. I mean, drive by, take a look. It's a big project. It's a good project. Coming along good.
The fuel pump's gonna come online sooner than that.
So they could come on anytime now. We got turned over to the real power from the temp power for construction. We just got switched over, but I want to wait till the blacktop is, you know, before we have people coming in
We
and,
be doing anything in there until the contractor's done, because
Right.
technically
Yeah.
they own the lot until they're done.
right.
If we get on there, then we're gonna mess up the punch list.
That's my fear, is not to let them in. It's just, there's a few things, you know, going on like that, but
Stay away
I could
from it
say
before they
June.
take it
you know,
over.
so, yeah, other than that, neighbors are happy down there, you know, seems to be, I haven't heard any complaints about the construction or what it looks like. And then Fort Ann, it's looking good. We are moving along. Been negotiating back and forth a little bit on different change orders and delay costs. I plan on presenting actually for all three jobs, maybe to finance this, you know, a global picture of where we are with each one. It's collecting a lot of data and where we're at currently. Because obviously every month the bills come in, so I'll take what Jen has and we'll figure out where we're at with everything. But we probably, I think we're talking about pouring the floor in Fort Ann. I think the third week of May, possibly the second week of May, which will help. We finally got, you know, out of the notice of cure that we talked about in December. We just got out of that last week. So the compaction standards that I set are met now, throughout the whole building. It took from the time the frost was out of the ground till now to get all that, because it was just like what I thought, you know, over winter and, you know, not proper construction methods in the winter caused it to not be compacted this spring. So had we let them keep going, you know, we would have had a floor that failed at some point. So pretty solid now.
Good.
So they move out of that. And the only thing that does is moves out, they can move forward in prepping the floor.
Right.
I wouldn't let them go any farther, because then you had to take stuff back out. You wouldn't let them go any farther until they could get that compaction.
When we still estimate completion to be?
So I mean, I'd like to think September 1st, Sam. I mean, I'm optimistic of doing everything I can to make that happen. All the coordination we can get, you know. I do think if the summer's like last summer, we're moving now. We actually have contractors there. I things are going forward at a better pace. So I do have confidence if the weather stays anything like it did last year, that we will succeed in getting that done, you know, by September 1st.
I don't know if you've been read into it or not, but the state's got an easement issue. I know Dan's aware of it. For a culvert. Some of it's going to be a right of way or use of the land for a couple of years.
Where our entrance are,
Yeah, that's
Project?
that's what they just told me. I wasn't sure that's where it was. Looked at the map. I thought it would go further, but it's an entrance to come out through there.
what part of the state, because we have the permit, we just received the permit last week to cut into the road.
Yeah.
They're coming up on May first to do inspection, potentially do.
Yeah, but is it DEC or DOT?
DOT.
DOT.
They just issued their permit last week, just got it for the curb cut and the entrance.
I would, maybe that's where they're gonna cut it in, and that's maybe the portion of it that you're talking. I don't know, that's what I'm letting you know, that
Okay.
they just gave us a date, I got it yesterday.
Oh, that's probably when Roselle's cutting into it.
Okay,
That sounds about the time they were just talking about, now they got the permit scheduling when they were gonna, because they have to, the traffic and everything, when they go to cut, there's a process for them to go through to be able to cut
yeah,
into
but
there.
there's some land that affects the county and the town,
Yep.
that they're going to, they want a 2-year
Two-year easement,
easement.
for construction, and I think, for general maintenance, and they're gonna give us the, standard kind of eminent domain offer.
Yeah.
So. I'm glad you let me know.
Well, that's all I
We
know.
just had a coordination meeting this morning and nobody,
Yeah.
nobody said anything.
That's what I wanted to let you know.
Okay.
I don't know how far it's gone. I know Dean saw a copy of it, Mike Turley from the town saw a copy of it.
I think there, other than that, everything. That's the update.
I would just make everybody aware, I did get a letter about somebody falling
On the
at
Burgoyne.
Burgoyne. Haven't gotten a formal notice of claim or anything yet, but we're going through the process.
That was falling on ice. So Burgoyne, yeah, I guess the last thing on the, for updates is we had a workshop, what do you call it? Working group, so for the capital project, the municipal campus working group. It was what, Thursday? So we discussed a lot of things and the needs that we talked about, multiple times over the years, and that's, basically to replace the DPW garage, parking lot, everything to do with the campus, we went over. And we came out of it with what we think we're gonna need. Our next step would be to get a proposal from Labella to do a feasibility study of different locations, of a few different locations of where we could build it, whether it was here, off-site, whatever, where they would do it. Now, when I say feasibility study, that basically is, okay, they've named a couple spots, have DPW looking, they've named a couple spots. What are the benefits there? What are the needs of DPW? Like, how many bays, how many trucks, lifts, power, their sign shop, actually sign shop's already done, welding need, all the needs that the county needs coming up to get it into one thing going forward. And in my research, I'll just bring this to light, because I keep hearing, well, we didn't like the window study, but we've got a lot of good information out of it. So I went back today and the window study was like 200 pages. And it had everything from Middle Falls, it had Dan's shop in there as inventory. They went through, they measured the shop, they took that, same with Fort Ann, this is how we got to that point there. They had Jay's shop in that study, right? This is how many square feet, condition of it, blah, blah, blah. They did a building inventory of a lot of stuff. And as I kept reading down through, I don't know why, we didn't like it. Well, I forgot the second part of that study, if you guys remember right. was directed from you or whatever, was the labor part. It was all about combining, right, county and towns and why it was better. And they went ahead, remember, and they published, you know, ideas on labor and combining labor for the town. And that's why that study got put aside. So we want to get rid of that part of the study. We'll use that. So right now, I'm not asking for any money. I'm just asking for permission to basically have our term engineers, which is Labella, come to another work group meeting and get a idea of the scope, so they could give us a proposal to prepare us for that study, whether it's for grant applications, you're gonna need that part of it if you're gonna try to get any money. But basically, it's gonna be feasibility study that everybody currently agrees with to move forward and how you would phase it and stage it.
So, or just like
That's
that,
gonna open up the discussion.
it wasn't just DPW, it was a whole campus.
Yeah.
So the parking lot, buildings need to come down to how we're gonna replace some of the utilization of the buildings,
The locations.
including building and ground shop and new storage, and we got a lot of storage out there that has some good stuff in it, some bad stuff in it, but it was looking at the entire campus again to make sure we're moving forward in the future with needs.
And some of the big highlights of this always were, would we do it on campus or would we do it somewhere else? I've talked to Jimmy and Deb in the last week and right up to this morning and got, you know, it's good when you can just talk back and forth and you get their side of it, why they would like to do somewhere else versus here. Then they kind of understand why, you know, my suggestion at first was to have it here, you know, so you kind of, they can take that in consideration to their locations that they're looking for. And I can also take what their needs are into consideration to go forward. But if we can get that all into a report to be able to present, you know, to the board, I think that would be important.
So I guess I got, it's a two-part question.
Yes.
So is there a charge for Labella to come to the work group?
No.
No, so that'll be with work after that to put the thing together?
Yeah, well, not, they don't charge for a proposal.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna ask for him. He's just gonna come and he's gonna listen to the work group and everything that we talked about. And I'm gonna request like, hey, as part of your proposal, we'd like you to investigate 3 locations that we could put this. And unless there's, and then if a slam dunk comes up, that's one of the locations during the feasibility. Like if something opens up, like you could be flexible with the locations. You know, you could have here, you know, one of the thoughts, which hasn't fully been vetted, is maybe up at the pit in Fort Ann. You know, we already own the property up there. It's a buildable site now. You know, is that a good location? They would sit down as part of their feasibility. They'd sit down with Deb and Jimmy, myself, the working group, and they would say, and they put together the pros and cons of doing it, like at that location, whether it be, you know, another piece of property that we scoped out. They would put that together and give us some options to work on as a board of supervisors to pick the location. It wouldn't be just me saying, this is your best spot or Deb or whatever. We'd have it in front of us.
Chair, we need a motion to invite them to the meeting. Sure. So it's gonna do it. I so move.
By Sam, second by Jim. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And then I guess this is the time, right, Dave? People have any, you know, discussion, like bring it up now, so the working group, when they go to them, can put it in there, you know, like if there's concerns on locations. We also heard from Al, I think he's here that day, which was really important, and it was good information on a process forward of how we would be able to pay for it over the next 25 years. You know, I think right now we need that conversation, whether it's, you know, a good comment or a bad comment, or like, so I think the working group would need to hear that right now too.
So after the, that was during or after the meeting the other day, Al said, well, why don't you do the whole thing? Get this plan done. And he's done some thoughts on it, so I'll let him talk about it, what his ideas are.
That's one question. I don't know if, and I don't know if all the supervisors are aware of what the scope of this campus plan is. And maybe you all are aware, but if you need us to tell you what we're talking about,
Yes,
maybe.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, so the whole
Okay.
campus plan, maybe.
I,
tell them
who
what
is
they're-
the working group? Have we got a list of names?
It's a clandestine group meeting in total secrecy.
Well, obviously, I know that part. That doesn't need to be said.
I don't know, I thought I was on the working group.
Hopefully not large enough where there are 8 forms
So
of
we
meeting.
got Matt,
Okay, let's hear it.
You're not on the working group either?
hold on, there's Matt, there's
I
Dan,
didn't know about it.
there's Matt. There's Melissa, Al, Daryl, Jay, myself, Nate.
And myself, but I was absent.
Cassie, I
I'm
thought you were
covered.
chairman of.
that was-
So the capital,
That was before, I guess.
group is different.
Dave's.
Oh, is this a new group then? Oh, it's, oh, what's the title of it?
Campus improvement
Work group.
workers.
Yeah, one word.
I don't make it up.
No, I know it. You can't make this shit up. You
No,
gotta- you
I'm
gotta-
invited to do it.
It's the
I'm
only
not-
way to do it. You
It's not
gotta
my
live it.
committee, like, you're looking at me like I made it. No.
No, I'm not looking at
Right.
you. I apologize. I won't look that.
A lot of good information comes out, like I don't have that. A lot of good information and feedback comes from it, and obviously you have to start somewhere. So, just, I'll put it in broad scope scale, is we've done Middle Falls and Fort Ann, or we're getting ready to knock them over. We'll go back a few years when you've heard this before, a lot of people have. Our needs were, the garage needed to be replaced, Middle Falls, Fort Ann, they were like the priorities at the time. It was decided after a walkthrough with supervisors that Fort Ann and Middle Falls were the biggest, the priority at the time for safety concerns. Like those buildings were falling down. We had COVID money, which funded like almost all the buildings. I can't say all, but the COVID money funded almost both of those builds. The need for a garage, the DPW garage, and to fix this has never changed. It didn't magically get better in the last 5 years since we did the walkthrough, or 6 years, however long it is. That's still a need. You've heard the parking lot is still a need. We have the annex building, we did a study on that. The reason why we're moving the nurses out is because it was no longer suitable, and it would cost more to try to rehab that building. So all the things that we've done to this point over the last 8 years are actually, they're little dominoes that were all in that window study to get to a farther point. And the farther point is to put us in the best position possible to replace that garage, which is in the middle of our campus. Everybody knows where it is. It's an
Often
eyes-
referred to as the shop.
It's an right, it's an eyesore in the middle of our campus. We've had parking problem with how many people, right? Where people can park, where employees can park. So over the years, and this is a lot of supervisors and everybody, I don't think anybody's ever disagreed that we need to start thinking about a plan to get those replaced. In fact, when I was talking to Jim Hogan this morning, he said, I don't know, it was 1997, he was told that building wouldn't be there in 3 years when they started. So here we are, we keep kicking the can down the road, and it doesn't get better, it hasn't got better. So that's the most need, that's the driving force of this, is this project, is the garage. But if you're gonna do just a garage, are you gonna do just a garage, or are you gonna do the Fort Edward building, who's almost, out of life, the carpool building, out of life, the buildings and grounds garage, the annex building, all these buildings that are kind of hodgepodge across the campus.
You didn't include the warehouse, the open air warehouse. Are they
The
part of it?
horse
too?
barns are part
Yeah.
of it. Everything to the north of the road and
Okay.
2 buildings to this side of the road. Some of the thoughts were, whether right or wrong, was we would rebuild on that north side. We could do one big building that would cover all the needs, everything from public safety to buildings, grounds to DPW, to the sheriff. That was the goal, you know, and we have some people that have felt that off campus would be better. And after listening to everybody, you know, in the needs, you know, are we being short-sighted by putting it there? Does that box us in for the future of anything else? Like if the sheriff needs expansion or anything else, like, so these are the things that we're hoping to get out of this study, like all those labeled, you know, bookmarks, so everybody can see the same thing.
Did you included that other old house?
The
That's all part of the stuff.
Yeah.
Out Street House.
House Street House. Well, that would be, I haven't done the scope of work because it's not gonna be Matt's scope of work. It's gonna be a working group. There's gonna be other people that help create this scope of work. That's gonna be DPW, it's gonna be Matt, it's gonna be whatever supervisors are in this group. We're gonna go through, and these are all the things we want you to take into consideration and lay it out for us with a budget, you know, and we can even input like, hey, this is our budget. What can we do? You know, so there's expectations. So everybody's on the same path. I'm not gonna say what location is better or worse. We're gonna let them present 2 or 3 different locations. And then we can decide what one's better or worse.
Maybe the point where part goes to one place and part stays here. We just don't know. And it's open up. It's an open discussion.
Yes, that definitely could be.
So possibly it's actually called the Fort Edward barn, right?
So,
Might be in a different spot than the shop.
so,
One possibility.
yeah, yes, it's gonna be open for that kind of discussion and if it's worth doing that or, you know, the benefits of building one building versus 2 smaller buildings in different locations. Why certain parts of DPW or building and ground would have to stay on campus. Yeah, I don't need to get into details now, but we are starting to discuss them behind the scenes back and forth with DPW and buildings and grounds, you know, why this would have to stay, but this could go and vice versa.
Would that be true if the shop was located behind Burgoyne, or is there not room for the shop?
So the shop, without going to big details, they need more space than what's available there. Yep. After listening to them, they need more space than what's available at buildings and grounds for the shop. There could be another possibility for some other stuff, but not the shop.
I think Matt came up with the need 5 acres
Yeah, go
at
ahead.
least.
I mean, in the discussion group, we were talking 5 acres and that's the number that's there. Yeah, Middle Falls is on about 2.5 acres.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
You know,
So, yeah, I will say that, you know, when talking, actually, like Jim is a wealth of knowledge, he's been here long enough. He said when, you know, at one point it was building A and DPW and had all the space. This has happened. We kicked them out down behind the jail. So like storage of culverts, storage, like their main shop used to be, you know, they'd have all this and now they have it kind of scattered here and there and kind of stuck places. His idea, you know, and he's not right or wrong. He actually saw my side of like, hey, if it was here, you know, the benefits of that. But he'd be looking for a little bigger area. So they could store bridge materials, they could store culverts and everything at one central location that was where the garage.
But that wouldn't have to necessarily be the shop, because you don't fix a truck with a culvert.
I do know that. Yeah, right. Well, all that stuff's gonna come up, but in the reason why, you know, like, hey, we would like to have storage somewhere, you know? If you're putting us in a small spot, it wouldn't be there. He's saying more, this is the center of the county. You know, so they would like to store that in this kind of area. But it doesn't mean, he didn't say, no, you couldn't have it in Fort Ann or Argyle, like, it's just some of the things, like, there's a lot of little things that are day-to-day you know, things that come up that we have to take into account. We need a fork truck, we need a skid steer, we need to unload trucks here, you know. Carpool doesn't want to drive all the way, you know, to Fort Ann or drive all the way to Argyle to work on every car back and forth. You know, that most of them are all parked
But
here.
is carpool a problem? Any
Carpool
reason why
building
that
is,
can't stay there?
that building, yeah, that building, we wouldn't do this project without getting rid of that building too.
Total redesign.
I was gonna say, it's very sufficient, I think, for carpool.
Yeah, but Brian, they can drive a car back and forth to wherever the shop is. And if the costs are what we were looking at the other day, maybe we shouldn't even be servicing our own, we gotta get a handle on that.
So, well, they could, right, depends on the location of where you build it, but that building isn't, that's not something that we want to keep. The carpool, that one.
But there's still a lot of discovery to do before we make those decisions.
Now, will this group report back to government ops every month? And who's the chair of this group? You're the chair of the commit work, and give it a title, Bob, so we got a title.
I think this, you got kind of two overlapping work groups here for different purposes. We had a capital plan group, which was looking at this stuff and kind of generically. This one was specifically for the facilities here, you know, on this campus. So it's a more specific group. I think that once they come up with a bunch of concepts as to what they should do, then it should probably go back to the capital working group to see, you know, what's the priority, what can we afford? To balance the priorities with how much we can afford. So I think I don't know what I call it, whatever you guys call it when you asked for it here in the meeting a couple of months ago, the facilities.
Campus facilities.
Campus facility work group, I think what they called it.
Part of capital was why we had Brian in there, because he's sensitive to all the numbers in capital in the future,
And the treasurer.
and the treasurer.
So, and a lot of your questions are, I think, what the working group is for. Instead of government, you know, everything from where, I think that's where we have the working group and we work all that out. And then government ops is a little less of that and more of where we're gonna put it.
Well, I think part of my question was that the fact that we understand the trucks are bigger and all that, and we may need a shop. I get that, I just question that. You might configure the area different, but for carpool, I don't know that we needed much different than what we have for carpool. I could be totally wrong, but someone will show me that, how they came to that decision. Because cars haven't changed. the same
Right,
size.
no, but the inventory of those buildings, when we do the buildings and they go through the heating systems and the plumbing systems and the efficiency of the building, and they rate 4 in every category, that's kind of a trigger for us to say, maybe we should not say in size. Nowhere in the report does it say the size of the building is too small. It says the building itself is.
So the group acknowledged right up front, that all the buildings that are in this area that we're talking about are not necessarily worth keeping. They're coming down. They're not part of the rehab plan. Check or hold on it. Okay. Then we were just making sure we had a list of all the requirements. So that we didn't miss anything, you know, that's what we're trying to do. We're having a conversation about, you know, do we remember this? What about this? What about this? It's a question that kind of leads us to write down a note to say to this engineering group, here's what we're trying to get our hands around. How would you make this fit? This kind of functionality here and another location. So we're just the pros and cons of it, if we split it up. The pros and cons of moving carpool, you know, all that kind of stuff. So the working group's not gonna answer those questions. The working group is just making sure that we don't forget about something that we had for consideration that we want the engineer group to put into their development. So,
And even Deb Donahue said, the configuration we did years ago isn't gonna work. She wants a different configuration because of changes that have happened over the past.
yeah, And if you want, it's okay, you know, just shoot us a note, email, whatever, come to the work you do. Making sure, hey, y'all got this on the list? Absolutely not. Good idea, we'll write it down and let them work it into the program and see what it looks like. If the decision is that we go with everything on this campus, you know, you're gonna need all that space over there for safety reasons at a minimum, because we gotta segregate heavy equipment from the general population, which is what we're trying to do as well. Enhance and increase the efficacy of our parking. Right, we know we gotta solve that issue as well, so all those issues are on the table, we don't wanna leave any issues off the table, if you know about it, we don't, then it won't get wicked into the plan.
Man, do you know how many acres is on this campus?
Total,
So,
I think counting down by the jail, there's like 12, 13
I mean, the total,
total, yeah, I think that's.
we got this up here, right? It's all part of it.
All part of it. The
All
jail
part of the
down
12?
back. I know, just from the road to north, the fence, over that area we're talking about is approximately 5 acres.
So 5 and 12, 17? I'm
Total.
still
Something
total
to
acres
that
I'm
effect.
trying to come up.
I don't have the exact acreage. I gotta look it up real quick on image.
Well,
bank.
I don't need it right now, but that'd be something to know how many acres we got here.
Yeah. So I tend to look at what's already, we're never moving this building, so.
All right, so we'll get LaBelle in here and start.
Yeah, another working group,
Okay,
okay. They can take notes and.
thank you. Anything else for Matt? Miranda? Are you filling? Are you Miranda today? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, there's a 1 o'clock meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Miranda just wanted me to give you guys some updates on our office. Our clerk has resigned. We have appointed Lindsay as acting assessor, to Salem to get through the role, because tentative role is about to come up. All the other roles have been submitted and, we've been able to take on a little more work with less people, but we're getting through everything, so. That's our update.
What's, sorry, Sue, I don't know. The county is appointed,
Yep, so
does that work the same way it did before when Granville, when you needed?
it's just a temporary
Temporary.
thing just to get us through, just the gap to get us through it to tentative role. Until you guys figure out what you're gonna do in town.
So the town of Salem, has been working with the county and they, agreed that the town could hire Lindsay as a acting assessor until the next appointment.
Mhm.
So,
So I'm just trying, I never heard of it. So it's, you're
Does it
paying
happen?
for it, yeah.
Yep.
Any other questions for Heather? All right,
Awesome.
any other business?
Yeah, what is that? I thought it was her, what is this workflow? What is it work?
That's what Heather just went through.
That was just our new workflow through the office without,
You mean for Salem?
nope, the whole of our office in general, like we don't have a clerk anymore and Lindsay is now also the acting assessor in Salem.
Yeah, that was the update.
Just the update.
Oh, it's just an update,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was a workflow,
All right, we're adjourned.
workflow update. I thought that was a sheet that they had.
Thanks,